Poseidon. The Poseidon, a luxury ocean liner, is making a transatlantic crossing. Former New York City mayor and firefighter Robert Ramsey is traveling with his daughter Jennifer and her boyfriend Christian Sanders to New York, soon to be engaged. Also on board is former Navy submariner turned professional gambler Dylan Johns, architect Richard Nelson, widowed Maggie James and her son Connor, stowaway Elena Morales, waiter Marco Valentine, singer Gloria, and captain Michael Bradford. On the bridge, officers see a 150-foot rogue wave coming towards them, while everyone celebrates the New Year countdown. Though the crew on the bridge sounds warning alarms and turns hard to starboard to meet the wave head-on, the Poseidon turns too slowly. It is hit broadside and capsizes. Passengers are swept overboard, fall to their deaths in overturned high-ceiling areas, or are crushed to death by falling debris. In the galley, crew are incinerated by flash fires caused by rupturing gas lines. Captain Bradford reassures the passengers by telling them that a set of GPS beacons were launched during the collision and that help is on its way, therefore they should stay put. Some passengers hesitate. Dylan disagrees and concludes that the bow thrusters of the ship are the key to survival. He is joined by Robert, Richard, Connor, Maggie, and Valentine. The group makes their way through the kitchens to a service elevator. Using a table to bridge the space across the shaft, the group pries open an opposing set of elevator doors. Everyone survives until the table drops, as Richard is being pulled up by Dylan. The service elevator, severely damaged by the collision, begins to plummet towards them, and Richard is forced to shake the crewman off. Valentine falls down the elevator shaft and is killed immediately by the fall. And the elevator crashes down moments after Richard has pulled through the doors. The group manages to force the elevator doors shut just before a gas explosion set off by the falling elevator reaches them. Meanwhile, in the nightclub, Elena and Jennifer rescue Christian with help from Lucky Larry. Robert and Jennifer reunite with the other survivors. The group reaches the lobby and uses a damaged elevator as a bridge. As Lucky Larry takes his turn to cross, an engine smashes its way through the lobby floor above and kills him. Large amounts of leaking fuel follow through the opening in the floor and is ignited. Dylan finds a fire hose and jumps into the flaming water, making a zip line that the others use to cross. In the ballroom, the windows at last give way. The room floods and the surviving passengers, Captain, Gloria, and the crew inside, are drowned to their deaths. As the surviving group tries to escape from the rising water, they hear all the people from the main hall screaming for help. They go into an air vent which leads to the ballast tanks. Eleanor struggles to continue moving through the air vent due to her claustrophobia. Robert tries to smash the cover of the vent but fails and calls Connor to assist him in the hopes that Connor's smaller fingers will be able to undo the vent screws. Elena successfully gets inside the vent and offers her necklace to be used as a screwdriver. The cover opens and the group climbs into the ship's ballast tank, where they locate a hatch. Robert and Dylan realize that only great pressure can open the hatch, and they flood the chamber. The hatch opens and they swim through to the next chamber. Elena's dress becomes caught as she swims through, and she hits her head on a sharp beam and loses consciousness. Richard turns back to rescue her, followed by Robert, Dylan, and Christian, and takes the unconscious Elena back where Robert tries to revive her, but she dies from her injury without regaining consciousness. The group finds themselves in the galley and see the bow section is flooded, telling them the obvious. The Poseidon is sinking by the bow, and fast. While finding a new exit, an explosion in the engine room causes the bow to rise out of the water and forces the stern down. All of the water in the bow rushes towards the stern, and the stern of the Poseidon sinks underwater. Robert, Christian, Jennifer, and Richard go first, leaving Dylan, Maggie, and Connor behind. Maggie and Dylan find Connor trapped. He is eventually saved by Dylan, and the three reunite with the group. In the engine room, Richard opens a cover, and the bow thrusters, still trying to turn the ship to starboard, begin blasting air into the room. Knowing that the control room for the propellers is now below water, Christian and Robert debate who should go, knowing the one may not come back. Christian decides he will, only to find Robert has already gone. Underwater, Robert finds the off switch broken, but manages to hit the reverse button instead, just before he drowns. The propellers briefly stop, then begin turning the other way, and Dylan finds a nitrogen tank and throws it into the propellers. The ensuing explosion destroys the motors for one of the 3 bow thrusters. After climbing through the propeller tube, they jump overboard and into an inflatable raft. The survivors start rowing for their lives as a wave is thrown up as the Poseidon rights herself again, pushing the survivors away from the ship. The Poseidon is too badly damaged to remain afloat anymore, however, and, with her bow pointing high into the night sky, she sinks by the stern in the foaming waters as the handful of survivors looks on. Finding a flare gun in the raft, Dylan fires it, and they wait for rescue. Sometime later, a group of helicopters finds the raft and moves in to pick up the survivors,